Really what I want to talk about more than anything else is I want to tie the legislature in on this. I want to explain why the legislature has to take action now, right? And that's why we got the legislature in the background here. So behind me here represents Article 1, the legislative branch of our federal government. They're responsible for making, creating, amending laws, right? Create, amend, destroy laws. They are responsible for all legislative power. That's Clause 1, Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States. All legislative power is vested in a Congress of the United States consisting of a Senate and a House of Representatives. This guy's behind us here. So when it comes to the Constitution of the United States, they are the only entity of government that can amend or initiate the amendment of a constitution. No state can create a law that will substitute the guarantees of the Constitution and then go out and enforce it. Because what that means is that the state laws are more powerful than the Constitution of the United States, and that is not consistent with the American beliefs. That's not consistent with the laws that the American people established. So when a state does do this, these people behind me here should be very much offended because they're responsible for all things Constitution. But when they fail to take action, then of course we have a breakdown, because who is going to enforce an abridgment or a deprivation of a constitutional right? I've met with numerous senators. Senator Cantwell, Senator Murray, Senator Cruz, Senator Mark Wayne, Senator Gary Peters, numerous senators. I've met with numerous representatives, right? Most recently, Mr. Newhouse. And I've informed them that the states have created laws that are in conflict with the Constitution of the United States, and then they're going out enforcing them against their own constituents. And every single one of them have said to me that that's a state issue. We don't get involved in it. We abstain. Well, unfortunately, you cannot abstain. Because the 14th Amendment, and I'm not going to argue about the validity of the 14th Amendment, but I'm going to say that the 14th Amendment has a number of different provisions within it. One of those provisions says no state shall create or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of United States citizens. The privileges and immunities of United States citizens are at a minimum those enumerated within the first 10 amendments to the Bill of Rights. There's no denying that. So when a state does create a law that diminishes, takes away, or reduces any of those obligations, those restrictions to the state, codified and enumerated, written in the first 10 amendments, that would absolutely be an unconstitutional law. There's no denying that, none whatsoever. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 to the United States Constitution says, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury. I can't make that language any clearer or any plainer. You must have an indictment by grand jury before arresting someone and holding them over for a capital or infamous crime. Capital crime is any crime punishable by a death. It's pretty easy, right? Infamous crime is a little bit more difficult. You got to go to Title 18, subsection 4083 to determine what is an infamous crime. An infamous crime is any crime punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment in a penitentiary. Right? It's not the amount of time you get sentenced to, but the amount of time you can be sentenced to. Because the Constitution says you cannot be held to answer. So it's the moment you are arrested and held that determines the infamous nature of that crime. So if you pled guilty, or you were found guilty and they only gave you 3 months, but you could have gotten 2 years, that is an infamous crime requiring an indictment by a grand jury before arresting you and holding you over for that offense. This is plain language, you guys. We can't be any clearer than this. So when the state of Washington created a law in its inferior constitution, Article 1, Section 26, that says no grand jury shall be drawn or summoned in any county, that provision of that constitution functions directly to the contrary of the Constitution of the United States of America. Now we have a supremacy issue. Now we got to decide whose law is supreme. Does the state of Washington have the right to be able to create a provision in its inferior constitution and then order their agents to go out and enforce that law in direct violation of the Constitution of the United States of America? The answer is no, if we live in a union. We live in a confederacy, and maybe they do. But unfortunately, if we live in a confederacy, we got another issue, because Article 1, Section 10 says no state shall form a confederacy. You see, these states, they gave up their sovereignty to join the Union and subject themselves to the supremacy of the Constitution of the United States of America. To what purpose did we create a law? And to what reason did we reduce it to writing if those that are bound to be restrained by those powers are able to exceed those powers by their discretion? It's a very simple issue. The Constitution restrains public officials from certain acts so we can preserve the individual liberty of the people. That's what the people created. That's what the Constitution is for. It is not a weapon of government. It is a weapon of the people. So those that are to be restrained by such weapon cannot exceed the obligations or the restrictions of that weapon at their will. But unfortunately today we have more than 700,000 people currently imprisoned here in America because those states have done just that. They've decided that they don't have to do what the Constitution of the United States requires them and obligates them to do. And now we have 700,000 people that are sitting in prison on judgments that don't even exist. There is nothing keeping these 700,000 people in prison today on anything other than a goon with a gun and the threat of fear. So what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this, legislature? Because I've been around this country and I've served 47 state attorney generals with notice that they're committing crimes over a year ago. Have any one of them done anything about it? Or have they continued to act obstinate to the obligation that they have in the will of the people? That's warring against the Constitution. That's the crime of treason. This isn't coming from me, this is coming from the law. I've gone back around the country and I've served 47 state Supreme Courts. The same notice, their judges are committing crimes when they fail to ensure that the proper documentation is in place. Have they done anything about it? Not one. Not one. Not one has corrected their unlawful acts, and as a result, every single one of these public officials that work for the executive branch, work for the judicial branch, they are all now knowingly and willingly engaging in criminal behavior. And that's a very, very dangerous position to be in, public officials, because when you swear by oath or affirmation that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and then you refuse to acknowledge its authority, that is the crime of treason. And according to the Constitution, that treason must be committed in open court. And every single one of you is committing this treason in open court. There's some very bad stuff coming your way right now. And the only thing I ask is that you guys step up. Just be men and women of honor. Do what you promised the people of the United States that you'd do. And enforce the laws of the United States. But in order to do that, it's going to take your truth. It's going to take your honesty. And it's certainly going to take your honor. Because if you continue down the path you're on right now today, you are all traitors. And the people of the United States, we might be docile, but we're not passive. You can only rob from us for so long. You can only steal from us. You can only deprive us of what we're guaranteed so much before we're going to step up and take action that we are lawfully able to take. Our laws permit us to do what's necessary to remove you from your office. And that includes death. So you guys need to understand that when you stand and fight against 330 million people and there's only 40,000 of you, that's not a war you're going to win. It's not a battle you guys want to fight.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's some handwritten letters from home. It's some sleepless